Hello everybody, I am Dr. Vindhya Singh and I work at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences in the Center for Preparatory Studies at Sultan Qaboos University. It's indeed a pleasure to be here with you today to share some thoughts on critical thinking and how this works in my classroom. Let us start by looking at two quotes from Albert Einstein. The first quote says, "If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'll spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions." Isn't that interesting way to look at problems? And the other quote says, "You cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it." I want you to reflect on these two thoughts because I found it very useful when I try to create tasks for the classroom, especially when it comes to critical thinking. In today's presentation, I'll share with you my experience of exploring with problem-based learning to develop critical thinking in the English for Business classroom. There are three main things I will discuss in this talk. One, getting an idea of what is critical thinking, looking at what are the intellectual traits that you could develop in the students, and how critical thinking can be developed as a 21st century skill. This is so essential for the students because when they go out of the classroom and meet the world, they do need to know things beyond the classroom. They look at problems and try to find solutions for them. When we define critical thinking, we look at three aspects. One, developing the right attitude towards problem solving. Two, having the right methodology in place, knowledge of the methodology as it were, and application of this methodology in the right context in terms of solutions. We also need to look at, when you look at critical thinking, we need to encourage our students to become more self-disciplined, self-directed, self-monitored and self-corrective. That involves a lot of independent usage of not just the language, but also about knowledge application. The third is a more altruistic approach to life where you strive to make an impact in this world, not just finding ready-made solutions, but going a little beyond for the betterment of society itself. I teach English at the College of Economics and Political Science, and I had the fortune to teach the three different courses which the Center for Preparatory Studies offers in this college. This is English for Business 1, English for Business 2 and English for Business 3. The focus of this talk would be my experience of teaching English for Business 3, which I have done for the last few semesters. Now, all the three courses have an underlying theoretical underpinning of using the Bloom's taxonomy. So, the first course primarily focuses on remembering and understanding. The second course applies application and analysis, and the third course is more on evaluating, creating and synthesis of information. However, these are not compartmentalized like that. It's a little fluid and one spills over to the other. The course has two components in it. There's a case study component where we look at 3 to 4 companies and the success story behind that. And that lends itself to reading, writing and vocabulary development. A good proportion of the text is exploited by the teacher in the classroom to encourage critical thinking as to what made the company successful, what are the factors that go into making a successful company, what are the traits that an individual should have in order to be a key player in such successful companies. The second component of the course is the problem-based learning, which I referred to earlier. The problem-based learning has a specific task. The students get into groups of 3 or 4 and they imagine they are out to start an international, rather establish an international charity in a country which really requires this charity. Now, what's interesting about this course is the first 2 weeks they sit in their groups and they really brainstorm. They take out their mobiles and we actually give them class time to do this, to explore which would be a possible country where they would want to start the charity. And to do that, they need to understand or rather research on what are the burning political, economic or social issues that needs to be addressed in this world. They usually zero down in one or two or sometimes three problems and then finalize on one issue that they want to take up. Once they identify the issue, the country, and they further narrow down to the specific city, town or village that they would want to focus on and the group of people that they want to work with. I notice a lot of independence already happening in the classroom because each group has different things to say and different issues they have conviction about. It's that conviction part that really gives me a lot of enthusiasm to help them take the project forward. A lot of time is spent outside the classroom in the groups discussing and fine-tuning the problem, because once they are clear about the problem, the rest of the project is easy. So once the solution is found out, and by week 3, week 4, they get into identifying what is their vision statement and what is their mission statement and what are the aims of the charity that they would want to develop as a solution for the problem that they have identified. The next stage of this project is they do research to find out details about the country. So they look at journals, they look at academic writings, they look at contributions available in embassies. And so this material that they collect becomes a resource for them to write the paragraph on background of the study. They then move on to do a SWOT analysis and a pest analysis. What is a SWOT and pest analysis? I'm sure you know. It's the strength, weaknesses, opportunities and threats this charity would offer to the people to whom they give this charity to. And the pest analysis would be the political, economic, social and technological implications of this charity for the country. So that's a very deep thing that they go into, and they sincerely work on this. We work on a first draft, second draft before we finalize on what should go into this section. That is the core of the project. And then they talk about the significance of this charity and come up with conclusions, recommendations and put it together. So this project manifests as a task for two purposes. One is a PowerPoint presentation which they do as a group presentation, and the other is an academic report which they submit to the teacher. The interesting thing about the task, which I find very encouraging, is we look into both the language element as well as the critical thinking component. It blends very nicely into this task, and that encourages students to learn the language, the right kind of vocabulary for this task effortlessly. The task is evaluated for the report as well as the presentation, and we've got two separate rubrics for it, which is quite comprehensive and looks at both the language as well as the content. For example, if you look at the project presentation assessment chart, it says content covers the topic in a clear and persuasive manner and the main ideas are well supported. Elements of critical thinking is automatically looked into when 30% mark is allotted exclusively for this. One of the best things about this course, I personally feel, is the self-reflection that they do, because it gives them an opportunity to see what they've learned, what they've picked up, in addition to just completing the task. Usually it's a semester end reflection which they submit to the teacher, but this semester onwards we have seen the importance of this and decided to have 3 self-reflections which will go on Moodle. So bringing in technology into the task too. We hope this makes a lot of difference to the way they process information for this particular task. I have looked at critical thinking and how we have attempted to do this in my classroom. I say we because it's really a collaboration between the teacher and the students. I learn a lot in the process and they too pick up a lot of new information and also ways of processing information. Critical thinking definitely is here to stay, and it's definitely part of the curriculum across the globe now. And if there is something further I can make a difference in my students' life, I'll go ahead and do it. For us in the college, it's using PBL as a tool in order to develop critical thinking. I'm sure in each department you have your own ways of doing it and your own ways of bringing in critical thinking into your classroom. If there is anything I can be of support, and if I can share any further information on this course and the tasks we do contact me over the discussion forum, and I'll be happy to answer the questions to the best of my ability. It's been a pleasure sharing this information with you, and hope to see you soon.